Nevertheless, she joins us now from Sydney for her review of what has been an extraordinary year in Australia. And we must always remember, a lot of what happens in Australia affects New Zealand. It used to be our primary trading partner, no more. But for what's been happening in Australia, and to introduce you to our Australian correspondent, welcome to the show, Jaqui Lane. Lovely to have you on. Welcome. What are you doing for Christmas, Jack?
I'm actually not doing anything for Christmas this year. I've had a big year, and I haven't retired, Michael. So
haven't you?
No.
I thought you were a lady of leisure.
Oh gosh, no. I'm busy writing books and helping people with their books, and in fact, I had my last book launch of the year for a client Thursday last week. So, no, full on and very busy.
Oh, I'm sorry. I've mischaracterised you. I thought you were winding. Well, you are winding down, though, aren't you?
No. Probably the opposite. Well, I've just kept going. I think that would be the correct way to say. So I'm kind of, my Christmas, New Year is I have a manuscript that I need to finish by the end of January. So quiet time with my head down and writing that.
So what are you working on at the moment?
I'm a corporate historian for half my life, so companies contract me to research and write their company histories. So I have a couple of company history projects that I've got on the go, and the one that I'm working on over Christmas is actually a book on large business transformation at speed for a client. So just something light and easy over Christmas.
And you're getting involved in that whole corporate commercial history is how you got introduced to so many corporate and commercial leaders, movers and shakers in Australia over the last 30 years, hasn't it, really?
Absolutely. So I came over here to do a 2-year research project for the Australian Stock Exchange on the history of entrepreneurship in Australia. So I spent a couple of years running around Australia, a year before the 87 crash and a year after it, basically interviewing pretty much all of Australia's leading business people.
Now, a year ago, Jack, if I was to take you back to this time, the 18th of December 2022, New Zealand was a different place. So was Australia. What's happened over the last year? I mean, let's just take politics for a start. Anthony Albanese and the Australian Labor government came in. They dealt in a big way to the Liberals. You were not a great fan of Scott Morrison, despite having probably liberal, shall we say, sensibilities. The Teals had taken over inner city Sydney and Melbourne. It was a different flavour than today. Why has there been such a significant change over the last 12 months?
Look, I think that, like a lot of people, we were all pretty jaded with Scott Morrison's leadership and the lack of accountability and openness and basically bullshit that was coming out of there. So I think a lot of people we needed a change, and we were relieved that, the Labor government had come in. Even if you're not a Labor supporter, great sense of relief and I think some optimism. As I mentioned, I think in our last chat, I supported Allegra Spender, who was a independent Teal in Wentworth. Used to be, strong Liberal and was Malcolm Turnbull's former seat. So major turnaround in our seat. And there's a big push for the independents here to really hold both major parties to account. I think everybody was looking forward to a different kind of government with some perhaps more caring and progressive policies. It's been a bit of a disappointment in a whole range of things. And I think throughout the year, the government's been scrambling. It's been on the back foot in so many areas. Had that many reviews, keeps blaming the former government, and really we're way past that. So I think that on a number of different issues, the government has been flat-footed and talks a good game and is not delivering. Where do you want to start? Immigration,
Well, I'm just going to say, before you start there, the thing to understand about Australia is you've got a House of Representatives and then you've got an upper house, a Senate. The House of Representatives is composed pretty much like New Zealand. It's divided into electoral electorates. I think it's 151 in Australia. And then you elect your member of parliament to represent you there. And then you've got a Senate on top of that. And to be honest with you, I've never understood the Senate. It's got 76 seats on top of that. How do they compose the Senate? I mean, if each of those House seats is an individual electorate, how are the Senates determined?
It's actually interesting. It's really not a dissimilar thing as parts of MMP. So the Senate really is based on the percentage of the vote that each party gets. And then each party has a set of list candidates that gets chosen based on a percentage basis. So it's it's kind of more of a percentage proportional representation as opposed to first past the post in the House of Reps.
So let me get this right. The coalition, for example, at the last election got 75 out of, what did they get?
No exact stats.
I'm just trying to look at what they got at the last election, 2022 election. They get, they lost 17 seats, but they got 35.7% of the vote. Yep. I thought the Labor Party smashed them, but they only got 32.6% of the vote. Is that because you also have that preference vote thing working?
Yes and no. The percentage of the vote is the overall vote, but in each electorate that would be radically different. Right. So Labor won more House of Reps seats, and that 32% isn't across the board in every seat.
Right. So although they won the majority of seats in the House of Representatives, they got a proportionate number of that in their Senate. So they end up with less Senate seats than the Liberal coalition?
Yes and no. It's actually the House of Reps seats that are the really important ones. So whilst they got, both parties didn't get, around early 30s, you really have to look at each of the House of Reps seats individually and see what the percentage voting, is in each seat. And then the Senate is kind of off to the side, really.
Right.
So the big game here is the House of Reps.
Okay. And they've got... Okay, so Anthony Albanese, this time last year, he's the Labor Prime Minister. Peter Dutton, I think, is chosen to replace Scott Morrison, who goes out. A very unattractive head, unfortunately. Not the most telegenic individual. He's sort of Bill English without hair, really. Labor's set themselves up forever. How are they in a position now where they're almost, if there was an election held tomorrow, they'd almost lose it?
Well, in fact, I was reading the paper this morning, and that's exactly, the polling is, very much like that, if you can believe polls. Look, I think a range of missteps really would be a fair summary of that. Clearly, the referendum has had a huge impact on Albanese's personal rating. It was hastily done, badly managed. The No campaign ran a much better campaign, and really a lack of engagement and dialogue before it was even called, I think, has had serious impact on Albanese's personal rating. So it was badly handled. And that seems to be a bit of a pattern with the Labor Party at the moment. Not sure if you're aware, but about 2 months ago, the High Court pulled down a decision the government had to release 120-odd permanently detained illegal migrants into the community. Awful situation where you've got these people being detained basically forever because they can't be sent back to wherever because they're stateless, and the government here hasn't worked out what to do with them. Anyway, High Court forced them to be released, and so the next day the Labor government released them into the community. Several have now subsequently been arrested for various offences, and the government hastily has been trying to unstuff that. Their excuse is, well, we weren't expecting it, we're following the rule of law, however, they should have had a contingency plan. So flat-footed, safety of security of the community, really major stuff up. Major issues around housing affordability in Australia. It's totally unaffordable. Large homelessness. People are doing it tough. And Labor seems to be flat-footed on policies on how to correct that. They came out with this thing, we're going to build, 100,000 new homes over the next 3 years, and then they upped it, and they've got no real way of delivering it, because there's a shortage of sparkies and builders and shortages in supply, and there's policies around zoning and all the rest of it. So sounds good, lacks substance, and that's really what seems to be happening across a major number of policy areas.